Welcome everyone to Having Fun with Testing. In 25 minutes, we will attempt to share some details about how we applied machine learning and the Twitter API to simplify and gamify our AQA test suite. Our wonderful team for the 2021 summer term consisted of myself, Shelley Lambert,
兰夏、
龙宇章、
Sophia Guo、
Saini Malik,
Azjad Khan,
and Avishri Khare.
And I would like to say we're fortunate to receive Outreachy funding from Red Hat and submitted 2 project proposals in preparation for the summer term to work on some technical explorations at the Eclipse AQAvit project. So to introduce what AQAvit is, it's a very large-scale Adoptium quality assurance initiative that we've developed over the past few years to ensure that binaries are of enterprise-grade quality and meet a certain quality bar. The Outreachy program is a program that is meant to introduce a more diverse face to open source. And we're very, very fortunate to have discovered the program and we're very excited to work with the folks in the summer term. So from having the crushing workload of the Eclipse AQAvit program, we never really had a chance to lift our heads up, step back, and play with some approaches to testing. And we saw the collaboration with Outreachy as a way to be able to do this. So our motivation was to have fun and apply the creative process to improving our test automation at the project. So the projects, in fact, for Outreachy were broken out into 2 projects, as I had mentioned, one called Deep AQAtik and one called Tweetest. And I'd like to introduce Longyu to talk about the Deep AQAtik project.
Thanks, Charlie. So I will introduce our Deep AQAtik project. So the goal of our project is to intelligently analyze test failures and then match with possible no issues on GitHub with machine learning algorithm. So if you look at the picture here, so this is our test results summary service, in short it's TRSS. So we use TRSS to collect our nightly and weekly builds and then divide the tests into individual tests. For example, this one, it is the test OSMX being local. So once this test fails, we will be able to find the issues on GitHub repos. And then our machine learning servers, it will give related degrees of each issue. For example, for the first issue, it gives the related degree of high. And then for the other 2, it gives the related degree of medium. Also, another objective of our project is to explore and experiment the AI pipeline for future projects. So this will be the general architecture of our project. We would like to thank the IBM Machine Learning Hub from Toronto and Ottawa for the help. So for GitHub repos, we mainly collect from the Adoptium repos and the OpenG9 repos. So from those repos, we collect the GitHub issue contents and store them in our database. And then we pre-process those contents for our machine learning model training. So more details of the pre-process will be introduced in the following slides. Also, when people open an issue on the GitHub, usually it's because a test failed. So many of the issues, they have corresponding Jenkins output, what is the original test output. So how do we get this one is, as I mentioned before, we have TRSS. So we use TRSS to collect the test information from Jenkins and then store them in the database. So when we need the Jenkins output, we grab from the TISS database. So with the pre-processed content and the corresponding Jenkins output, we can train and evaluate our machine learning model. And after we got the model, we can use the Flask to deploy the machine learning server. With this server, after the test fails with the GitHub issues, we will be able to give them different related degrees based on the feedback from the machine learning server. Also, we undid the user feedback. So the feedback from real users can help us to improve the performance of our machine learning models. So next, I will hand it to Avishai to introduce the detailed implementations of our project.
Thank you, Longyu. So the first step of the pipeline focuses on collecting adequate amounts of data for training the ML models. There are two important data sources for the Deep AQAtik project. The first is the builds from Jenkins that provide information on test failures. And the second are issues that can provide more insights into these test failures. We currently have these issues from relevant GitHub repositories, including Eclipse adoption and Eclipse OpenJ9. These issues are collected using the Issues API, which is generously provided by GitHub. Once an issue is fetched by the API, it is broken down into two important pieces. The first piece corresponds to its metadata, that is information like the date of creation, the title of the issue, the repository it belongs to, and so on. While the second piece focuses on the actual contents that make up the issue. The metadata is stored in a MongoDB database where each record corresponds to an individual issue. The actual contents of the issue are stored as text files in a disk storage. There is a mapping from the records to the issue contents using a field called the issue content path, so that we never lose information about where our issue contents are stored. I would now like to call Azra to talk more about the data pre-processing part of the pipeline.
Thank you, Abhishri. So my part was to work further on the issues that were collected using the GitHub Issues API. What I had to do as the task of for pre-processing was to look onto the GitHub issues that were being collected and look for the Jenkins output APIs that Jenkins output that were displayed in the issues. For example, in the picture shown, these were mentioned as codes. So by after extracting these codes, I had to store it in a folder issue quotation contains, so that we can have data for training the machine learning model. After collecting the data, what I had to do also was to collect test names too, like which issues have been worked upon with the test names given, and also fetch the Jenkins build URL as well and store it in a new server, store it in the new folder, sorry. So this was the part which I had to do as for pre-processing. And secondly, next slide, please. Yeah, so as we all know that feedback is important too, like whatever we had worked upon, we also needed the feedback. So the users, what users can do is to give the feedback of the output that our model displayed by clicking the buttons that I designed as the front end, like smile and frown. So the users can click on it and give various information about the output that the model gave, like whether it's correct or not, issue number, build name, test name, and a lot more. So this was my part. Now I would like to hand over back to Avishri so that she can discuss the future prospects of the project. Back to you, Avishri.
Thank you, Asjad. So to summarize, Deep AQAtik aims to bridge the gap between test failures and data sources that can explain or that discuss these test failures. We currently have a working data collection and pre-processing pipeline in place. And so we always have adequate amounts of rightly processed data for training our ML models. We also have a wonderful user feedback system in place that can help in improving the performance of these ML models. An important limitation that Deep AQAtik faces stems from the fact that Jenkins only stores information as long as 2 weeks. So any Jenkins build information older than that would not be accessible, thus restricting our use of the data collected in the process. There are several things that we aim to do with this project in the future. For example, we would definitely like to experiment with more advanced and sophisticated machine learning models that can be more confident and more trusted by the users of our community. And we would also like to include additional data sources, so other GitHub repositories or Stack Overflow questions and examples for making this process easier and better. I would now like to call Sophia Guo to talk about the Tweetest project.
Hi, thanks, Avashi. So the Tweetest project, it's an overhaul of Aqua external third-party application test, which makes it challenging and fun. The idea is building on what already exists as part of the Aqua framework to allow for the on-the-fly external test request, which will leverage existing Aqua test framework, reduce duplicate test framework code, and allow for easier addition of new third-party application test. By doing that, we hope build relationships to application open source project and the broader Java community. And the most important thing is have fun. Tweetest the workflow diagram. For the Twitter users who are interested in the test, they can request test following a particular format, which will be monitored and also will be checked, doing some security check or other checks. And then we'll trigger a Jenkins job in Adoptium to run a containerized test. The test result will be returned to the user using the Twitter API. Now I will hand it over to Sayani, who will have some detailed implementation.
Thank you, Sophia. So I worked on the project Simplify and Gamify External Test, codenamed Tweetest. Earlier, all the external tests required separate folders to be added to the repository so that each time a new test is run, corresponding code had to be added to the repository. So the main aim of the project was to enable the generic trigger of the test and a complete overhaul of the external test. And for that reason, the entire project was divided into 4 milestones. The first milestone was to refactor and simplify the existing external test to reduce the redundant and the repetitive code. The second was to create an external custom target to enable the generic trigger of the external test so that the external test can now be run on the fly without the requirement for addition of the repetitive folders and code for each external test separately in the repository. And for this, we took the help of 3 parameters: the external custom repo, the external test command, the external repo branch, and using this, the external test can be run on the fly. It was also ensured that the test can be now launched in the grinder. This would make it very easy for the addition of the newer external test. The third milestone was to update the external test to the latest release using the GitHub API to ensure that the latest version of the external test is being run every time. The external tests now get updated to the latest releases at regular intervals. Now, the last and the fourth milestone was to investigate the Twitter APIs to monitor the tweets containing certain hashtags like the hashtag of external custom and also the details of the parameters required for running the external test. Using these parameters extracted from the tweets, the external test can be run and the results can be then retweeted back to the user. Now, going forward to the next slide. So here are some of the screenshots of the PRs which had been created, some of the tests which had been run, and some of the code which had been written. Now I will hand it over to Lan to discuss the future prospects. Thank you.
Thanks, Sanyali. So during the summer, we have completed the various features of Tweetest. We built the foundation of the project. However, we still have lots of work to do. Moving forward, we need to monitor the activities of the live Twitter account, capture the parameters from tweets, trigger Jenkins job with parameters, and send test result back to the user. And we need to integrate all pieces together to create a simple and smooth workflow. Next slide, please. So overall, this summer was special for all of us. We had lots of great experience and memories. Our project goal is indeed fun and creative. Everyone was engaged, and we stretched our testing framework to be more intelligent, playful, and simple, with different skill sets, background, and perspective from each team members. We really gained lots of new and diverse ideas from our collaborations and incorporations together. We will miss our discussions on Thursday meetings and various interesting Slack conversations. Last but not least, like any other project, there were unexpected problems. We learned to work together to adapt and adjust based on the new information and the requirements to achieve our project goals. Next, I would like to hand it over to Shelley, and she will ask one question to everyone.
Thank you, Lan. And thank you to everyone on this project. As Lan mentioned, it's been a great honor to work with everyone and a lot of fun. And so to kind of retrospectively look back to the summer and to look back onto what was accomplished over the course of our time working together, I wanted to find out, if you could summarize this in one word, what would the one word be that you would summarize the experience? Collaboration.
Inspiration.
So we thought it would be funny just to all come up with one word, and there isn't one word, because it turns out when you bring a diverse set of talented, skilled people together on a project, it brings a lot of different ideas, a lot of different words, a lot of different thoughts, and it makes the project better. And it's been a great experience working with everyone. Thank you so much. Next slide, I guess, to say we actually want to answer any of the questions that people watching have, and around the experience of working with Outreachy, or around the experience of being playful in open source project. Hey, it's good to see everyone again. And you notice that I quickly found the same sweater, so it looks like we just did that live. And we have a question that's coming in that says, how automated is your AQAtik pipeline? How much manual work is required to set it up, train, and deploy? And maybe I'll go to Longyu for a starting point for that answer. And you're muted.
Yeah. So for the pipeline currently, for the Outreachy program, what we did is, at first we manually collect the issues from GitHub, but now we can automatically collect the related server repos from GitHub to collect the issues. Now we will, after we get the issues, we'll be able to train the models. So to train the models, we will need more automation work for training the model, training and evaluate the models. And after we get the model, we can just send the model to the machine learning server. It will automatically run the machine learning server with Flask. So this is the current pipeline. So we are still working to refine it.
Yeah, this project continues. Both projects continue on after we've ended the summer term, and of course everyone here is still welcome to work on it, but I know everyone's also got either full-time work or school underway, so if you're interested in helping with that, please reach out. We have a next question, which is, what was the main challenge in this collaborative project in open source? Oh, that's a open-ended question. Who wants to start with an answer? Does anyone want to help answer that one? I have an answer, but I don't want to be first. I'm going to say the answer to that for me was when you have to onboard brand new people to a project that's already in its 4th year, and there's a lot of design decisions that have already been made, and there's a lot of things that can't be broken while you're playing and collaborating, that the challenge is to make sure you can have that free runway of being able to test and do your work alongside continuing to keep up with the Java release cadence and all of the other workload that we have at the project. I think that would be my number one challenge. I don't know. Does anyone else have a perspective on it?
Yeah, I agree with that. We're dealing with part of the technical debt, and then as well as we have to be able to free us up and try to innovate and make sure that we're heading the correct direction, that we will actually design a solution that will help us in the long run.
Yeah. And I remember in the summer even having to make a few course corrections. So the other thing that we did was the Outreachy program works that you create a project plan for the term, and you have set of milestones that you want to achieve. But there's always challenges. You can't predict everything. So adjusting and course correcting was needed. But everyone did remarkably well under that requirement, the need to readjust.
Right.
I think adaptability was one of the words that was said in the ending of the presentation.
Yeah, well, it's like any software project, that the requirements can change. And especially we're doing this COVID,
Yeah.
and then that brings another challenge to this. So we really have to collaborate and then adapt into the new situation, and then try to adjust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now that summer is over, what is the future of Tweetest?
We need to continue. We want to continue work on the project. It's definitely interesting perspective of testing. It brings a new way. Like, it's become a game, right? Instead of just sit there and run the tests, like we have nightly runs and weekly runs. It's become a game. We can get people involved. So we definitely want to get the project going. So that's why we need your help.
And also, I was going to say that ties in nicely with the preloaded question I have, which is, now that we've had an experience with Outreachy, would we do it again? And the answer is 100% for sure, yes. And in fact, we're in the middle of an Outreachy contribution period right now for a term that will start in December. And there is a project called Project Tether, which we propose as part of that term, that builds off of what we were able to do in the summer for Tweetest. So we'll have another person joining, hopefully, for that term to help move it forward. And as Lan said, the idea for that is to have some playful interactions with the community through Twitter or through a short weekend contest of try to send us your Java application testing, and we're going to see if we can run it.
Yeah,
so
we have a long list of external tests that we want to add. Actually, if you can go to our reports, Shelly listed there. I'm like, oh, it's
really long. So and if anyone doesn't know what the external tests are, it's us taking the application tests from large Java applications, taking their functional suite, grabbing them and running them with the binaries we build to make sure things work as expected. But we're also doing that inside of Docker containers to test the containers that we create and share with the Java community. So it has a kind of a multifold.
Right. Yeah. What I really like about external testing is actually it brings everybody together. So it's impossible for us to write all the tests to test the JVM, but with external testing, it's actually opens the door to invite all the community project to join in, and we can leverage and help each other to improve the product quality.
Right. And we have another question, and this one's going to go to everyone, I guess. Are the team members planning to become Eclipse committers? Are you already? So I'll say that I'm a committer on multiple Eclipse projects. Lan as well, Sophia along you as well. I invite Azjaz Sayani and Avishri to continue to contribute so they could work up to being committers in projects. It's been a real pleasure to work with them for the summer term. So they are loaded with potential of leading the world. Any other questions or any other things people in our panel? We also wanted to see if we could break the EclipseCon organization by having this many speakers at once. And we didn't do it. Anything else? Close to it, I've got. That's right. Now, if there aren't any other questions, then I invite people to come and join us in the project. I think we'll have our links to how to participate and join the Slack channels shared in the end of the slides. All right.
Okay.
Very good. Thanks everyone for joining us and watching our presentation, and good to see everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.